sensitization of the higher levels of judiciary on the complexities of the issue in the capital-intensive sector, such as infrastructure, telecom, power, oil and gas, and surface transport were discussed.
We must take up necessary governance reforms. It is extremely important also to build the institutional infrastructure before you get the physical infrastructure. Consumer voice is not about consumer protection. I think consumer voice should be about partnering with industry, partnering with the regulator, partnering with government, partnering with political parties in the whatever. You partner together all those who are concerned. After all, who is not concerned about the development of this country? Who is not concerned about the infrastructure in this country? Who is not concerned about the election in this country? I think that is something to be done. Now, who will take the leadership? I don't know. Market can do wonders for efficiency and accountability, both. Now, can you make markets work? I'm now currently working on a concept where can you have all delivery systems by creating the kind of markets instead of government delivery? Can you do that? In infrastructure, problems will be solved through partnership, through empowering not only the consumer, but all of us together on a single platform, and through innovative use of market.
Once I happened to meet Honorable Mr. Justice J.S. Verma, former Chief Justice of India, who was he was the architect of this collegium system. He also told me that, look here, now this system is failing. The government and the judiciary must think of some other better system. So far in the Indian judicial history, not a single judge has been removed. Before a judge is appointed, it is all the more necessary that he should be examined from all angles so as to see to it that the best is taken. But at times, that also fails. Now, Mr. Harry has already told us as to how a judgment can have adverse effect to the economy of the country. You are well aware of that judgment. I need not take the name of that particular judgment. But I would only give you my personal experience after that judgment. At least 3 big companies of 3 different countries came to me for my opinion, because according to them, they told me that one of the company had invested 16,000 crores, another company had invested 9,000 crores, and only with the same brush everyone was painted and their licenses were cancelled. When they were to come to India, they were shown that, look here, this is a golden goose, you invest, you will get this, you will get that. But now the question was, even they were not able to get the money that they had invested. Forget about the profits, etc. What had happened because of that? The result was that FDI fell. FDI fell to a great extent because the countries which were ready and willing to invest in India, they got a shock of their life. They decided, no, enough is enough, we are not going to invest. So my humble request to the honorable judges is that they must realize the ground realities. They must see as to how the judgment is going to affect the country, how the judgment is going to affect the economy of the country. Unless that is seen, it is not going to serve any purpose.
I think renewable energy is a very, very key component for us. The coastal states, and say Rajasthan, which have a potential for wind, or Madhya Pradesh, they go for huge capacities for wind installations. States like Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab, or J&K, which have potential for solar, they can go in for solar. Punjab also has a huge potential for biomass. We, being an agriculturally rich state, we have a huge potential. Of course, there are certain technology issues that we are trying to grapple with. But I think overall, the renewable energy sector really needs to be mainstream, really needs to be given a big push, so that not only do we have green energy, clean energy for our generations, but also our energy mix looks much healthier and our dependence on fossil fuels is reduced.
As share of renewable power increases in country's electricity mix, India needs to deploy smart grid technology in transmission and distribution network to overcome grid fluctuations.
It's really important to consider timing here, because you know that hydro projects are going to take years, if not decades, and you know in the event of nuclear it would obviously take a very long time, and large-scale thermal and fuel issues and all of those things are on different scales, and so different technologies and different solutions have the ability to deal with things in different time periods. And it's important in the evolution of a smart grid roadmap to think about those things that can be done quickly in the 0 to 3 to 5 year range, in the 5 to 10 year range, in the 10 to 15 year range, and what goes with that. California alone, the state, over the last 15 years, has spent a little over $1.5 billion doing demand response programs to create over 4,000 megawatts of demand that the independent system operator of California can use exactly how much in their forward forecast? 0. Not dispatchable, not two-way verifiable, can't see it, can't use it. Electricity is the one thing, and investing in the people that touch the consumer, the grid, has to be a viable thing to do. Yes, roads are important. Yes, all these other things are important. But electricity is the only thing in the history of mankind that ties to the health and welfare of an entire nation. We've been able to create a platform that allows the utility, instead of seeing all of this as a threat, a customer getting a generator, a customer getting a photovoltaic panel, any type of photovoltaic or small-scale wind or anything else, it creates a platform by which now they can interact with it positively to grid through a business model and a capability to grid that works for everybody involved in the transaction. And it's crucial that the regulator, the utility, and the consumer come back together and not fragment apart in this conversation, because customers are investing in demand-side generation and technologies and reliability and things to keep them whole. And those things can be an important part for India's future in the next 5 to 10 years, while the rest of the policy for huge infrastructure and hydro and thermal and nuclear, all those things are being worked out and the base loads created. In the next 5 years, India has the capability of getting 20 to 30,000 megawatts of dynamic demand response fully enabled in a 5-year period that can help manage the grid in a very short amount of time.
And we all know through the smart grid roadmap, you want to go from 230 gigawatts to 900 gigawatts of power in X number of years. That's a tremendous goal to go for. Part of the smart grid roadmap actually says that by 2023, you actually want 130 million smart meters installed. 130 million. How many today? Very few. Remove for the distribution companies the constraints that they're on at the moment, make it open-ended, to actually let them make the decision that they're not penalised by implementing smart metering. I then asked the national and state governments to consider, as the European Union did for Ireland, and that's how they got to the Celtic Tiger explosion in Ireland with the grants from the EU, but to give grants to the distribution companies, the utilities, the power industry, to make the smart grids happen, because you're going to recover that money in a very short space of time by getting rid of the losses and getting rid of the theft that occurs today. Something then that I think that the regulators can do and stipulate right from Monday when you go back to the offices, and that is every single static tender that comes out for static meters, tenders for static meters, instead of going for static meters, have 25% of those tenders put out for smart metering. That's a decision that people in this room can make to push this forward to make it happen. And I know that the meter manufacturers in India have got really a powerful lobby, but I've also got a solution about the cost. We at Scion have actually developed a low-cost, standardised retrofit design for a meter. And actually, you can get this meter manufactured and made here in India, so it creates more jobs. And this low-cost meter will only cost 1,200 rupees. So 1,200 rupees to me is affordable to get a smart meter installed with a remote disconnect. Unlike some of the costs that I've seen today, people are asking for 8,000 rupees for a smart meter. We as Scion have also got a retrofit product that sits alongside existing meters, and it will make those existing meters smart. And that can happen, and remotely you'll be able to see and control and measure the energy that's going out. Once you've got that, the low demand that Chris talked about, you can then manage with the consumer two-way communication and encourage them to use the washing machine and the fridge in the afternoon or whenever, and not use it at peak times. So you really need smart metering and smart grid to make it happen in terms of the demand and share that load across the piece.
When you bring maturity in a sector like power, when you bring, for instance, the kind of, better networking, better relationship between the operators and players and regulators, on the one hand, and the government on the other. So what happened? There is a better connect between the policymakers, regulators, and companies and consumers. So this eventually leads to what? This leads to better flow of electricity. This leads to better opportunities for the companies, and eventually it boils down to one thing, that power available 24/7 to you at very affordable price.